Hello, Grim Histories fans! Welcome back to the channel where we delve into the darkest, weirdest, and most fascinating corners of history. Today, we're journeying back to the year 1518 to a city shrouded in mystery and, well, let's just say a whole lot of frantic footwork. Prepare yourselves because the story we're about to uncover is so bizarre, so utterly inexplicable, it'll make your jaw drop. Imagine this: the cobblestone streets of Strasbourg, a bustling city in the heart of the Holy Roman Empire. The year is 1580. Life, as it was in those times, was a brutal dance between feast and famine, faith and fear, prosperity and plague. But nothing could have prepared the citizens of Strasbourg for what was about to unfold, a plague unlike any other. A plague of dancing. Yes, you heard that right. A dancing plague. Can you even begin to imagine? Picture this: it all started with a single woman. Her name, unfortunately, has been lost to the annals of history, swallowed by the very chaos she unleashed. But we know this: one day, in the vibrant yet disease-ridden streets of Strasbourg, she began to dance. Not a graceful waltz, mind you, but a wild, frenzied jig. She danced relentlessly, day and night, seemingly oblivious to fatigue, hunger, or the sheer absurdity of her situation. Now, Strasbourg wasn't exactly known for its laid-back atmosphere. This was the medieval era, a time of superstition, religious fervor, and a pervasive fear of the unknown. So when this woman started her seemingly endless dance, the reactions ranged from bewildered curiosity to outright terror. Was it a divine curse, a demonic possession? The wrath of a vengeful god? The possibilities, shrouded in the pervasive gloom of the times, were as limitless as the woman's seemingly endless dance. Days bled into weeks, and guess what? More people started to join in. Not just one or two, but dozens, then hundreds. Soon, the streets of Strasbourg were filled with a throng of people, all engaged in this bizarre, relentless dance. They danced in the marketplace, they danced in the streets. They danced until they collapsed from exhaustion, only to pick themselves up and continue the macabre jig. Can you imagine the sheer, overwhelming cacophony? The stench of sweat and fear mingling with the sounds of frantic footwork, the sheer, unadulterated madness of it all? Some danced until they died, their bodies succumbing to exhaustion, dehydration, and heart attacks. Others were crippled, their limbs permanently damaged from the relentless strain. This wasn't a joyous celebration. This was a deadly, uncontrollable compulsion. It was a dance with death itself. And the question that haunts us to this day is, what in the name of all that is holy happened in Strasbourg in 1518? We'll explore the various theories surrounding this terrifying event in the following parts of this video. We'll delve into the medieval understanding of illness, the role of superstition, and the chilling possibility of mass psychogenic illness. This is just the beginning of a truly grim and fascinating tale. So, a woman in Strasbourg starts dancing. Not a little jig at a village fete, mind you. This is a full-blown, non-stop, sweat-drenched, potentially fatal dance marathon, and she's not alone for long. Can you even begin to imagine the scene? Picture this: Strasbourg, 1518, the cobblestone streets, usually bustling with the rhythm of daily life, the clang of blacksmiths' hammers, the chatter of merchants, the bleating of sheep herded through the narrow lanes, are now strangely silent, save for one unsettling sound: the relentless thump-thump-thump of dancing feet. The air hangs heavy with the scent of sweat, fear, and perhaps something a little more unholy. Our initial dancer, whose name history sadly hasn't preserved, is joined by more and more people. At first a handful, then dozens, then hundreds. Within days, the streets are overflowing with a writhing, sweating mass of humanity, locked in a feverish, unstoppable dance. Men, women, young, old, all caught in this bizarre, terrifying contagion. They danced in the squares, in the marketplaces, even in their own homes, their movements becoming increasingly frantic and erratic. Imagine the sheer chaos. The bewildered expressions of onlookers, their initial curiosity giving way to terror as the dance consumes more and more of their community. Families torn apart as members are swept into the relentless tide of movement. The city authorities, initially perplexed, become increasingly desperate. What was happening? Was this a divine curse, a demonic possession, a strange new plague? The descriptions from the time are chillingly vivid. Accounts tell of dancers collapsing from exhaustion, only to be dragged back to their feet by the relentless rhythm, their bodies racked with pain and exhaustion. Some died from heart attacks, strokes, or simply from sheer exhaustion. Others suffered injuries from falling or colliding with each other in the uncontrolled frenzy. The streets became littered with the fallen, their bodies testament to the terrible power of this inexplicable affliction. There was no rhyme or reason to who was affected. Rich or poor, young or old, seemingly healthy or already frail, all were equally vulnerable. It wasn't a targeted attack. It was an indiscriminate dance of death. The relentless, chaotic energy of the dance overwhelmed everything else, creating a terrifying atmosphere of collective madness. Could you imagine the fear, the desperation, the utter helplessness of those caught in its grip? The city of Strasbourg, once vibrant and bustling, was transformed into a stage for a horrifying, unstoppable performance. A macabre ballet where the only possible ending was death. And the dance continued for months. The sheer scale of this event is almost unbelievable. It wasn't a fleeting moment of collective hysteria. It was a sustained, prolonged outbreak of seemingly inexplicable mass psychogenic illness. The numbers swelled, the fear intensified, and the city found itself trapped in a nightmarish scenario that defied all rational explanation. What could possibly have unleashed this horrific phenomenon? What dark secret did the streets of Strasbourg hold? The answers, my friends, remain elusive, for now. So, hundreds of people are dancing themselves to death in the streets of Strasbourg. What did the people of the time think was going on? Well, let's just say their explanations were colorful. Forget modern medicine. This was the 16th century, a time when the line between faith, superstition, and actual science was about as blurry as a medieval painting. The most popular explanation, and one that might make you shiver a little, involves Saint Vitus. Now, Saint Vitus wasn't your typical saintly figure, at least not in the popular imagination. He was the patron saint against a whole host of things, but prominently against sudden death, epilepsy, and, you guessed it, uncontrollable dancing. His feast day, incidentally, is June 15th, a little too close for comfort, wouldn't you say? The affliction became known as Saint Vitus's Dance, or Chorea Sancti Viti, a name that clung to similar outbreaks for centuries. The idea was that the dancers were possessed, victims of a divine, or rather devilish, curse. The image conjured is chilling, a city gripped by a frenzied, uncontrollable dance, interpreted not as a medical mystery, but as a punishment from a wrathful god or the work of malevolent spirits. Imagine the fear. The preachers must have had a field day. Think about the societal implications. In a world where the church held absolute power, attributing the plague to demonic possession wasn't just a theory. It was a convenient, albeit terrifying, explanation. It shifted the blame away from any possible societal failings or lack of medical understanding. It reinforced the church's authority, after all, who better to deal with demons than the ordained. But it wasn't just the devil who got the blame. Some whispered of witchcraft, of evil spells cast upon the unfortunate dancers. Picture this, a dark, shadowy alley, a coven of haggard women chanting incantations under a blood-red moon, their eyes gleaming with malevolent intent. This wasn't just some fanciful tale. Witch hunts were commonplace in the Middle Ages, and the dancing plague provided fertile ground for suspicion and fear. Accusations would fly, trials would be swift and brutal, and the flames of the stake would provide a grim end to any suspected sorceress. The authorities naturally were baffled. The city council, faced with a situation completely beyond their understanding, resorted to a rather unusual solution. They decided to build altars dedicated to Saint Vitus, hoping to appease the saint and end the horrifying spectacle. They organized processions, prayers, and public displays of penance. They even brought in musicians, attempting to lure the dancers into more controlled, less exhausting movements. Can you imagine the scene? A city consumed by a chaotic dance, punctuated by the mournful sounds of religious chants and the desperate strains of hopeful music. The sheer absurdity of it all is almost enough to make you laugh, were it not for the grim reality of the situation. People were dying not from a single identifiable cause, but from exhaustion. Heart attacks and strokes, their bodies giving way under the relentless strain of the dance. It was a macabre dance of death, a horrifying spectacle played out under the watchful eyes of a bewildered, terrified populace. This wasn't just a medical mystery. It was a social crisis, a religious panic, a testament to the fragility of human life in the face of the unknown. So, we've witnessed the horrifying spectacle, the seemingly unstoppable wave of dancing that swept through Strasbourg. We've explored the medieval explanations, the panicked invocations of St. Vitus, the desperate attempts to appease a seemingly wrathful god. But what really happened? Was it divine retribution? A demonic possession? Or something else entirely? Let's delve into the more scientific, shall we say, theories surrounding this bizarre event. Forget the devil for a moment. Let's consider the humble fungus, specifically Claviceps purpurea, better known as ergot. This parasitic fungus infects rye and other grains, producing potent alkaloids. Now, imagine a population heavily reliant on rye bread, a staple of the medieval diet, contaminated with this ergot. The effects of ergot poisoning are dramatic. We're not talking about a simple tummy ache. We're talking hallucinations, convulsions, gangrene, intense itching, and yes, even uncontrollable spasms and involuntary movements that could easily be mistaken for dancing. Could the dancing plague have been a massive case of ergot poisoning? The theory certainly holds water. The symptoms align remarkably well with the descriptions of the dancers. The widespread nature of the plague could be attributed to widespread ergot contamination in the rye harvest. It's a chilling thought, isn't it? Hundreds of people driven to their deaths not by a malevolent spirit, but by a microscopic fungus lurking in their daily bread. But wait, there's more. Even if ergot poisoning was a contributing factor, it doesn't fully explain the collective nature of the event. Why did so many people start dancing simultaneously? This brings us to another fascinating and slightly darker theory: mass psychogenic illness, also known as mass hysteria. Imagine the stress and anxiety of medieval life: famine, war, disease, the ever-present fear of divine punishment. Add to this a few individuals exhibiting strange symptoms, perhaps even suffering from ergot poisoning, and you have the perfect breeding ground for mass hysteria. One person starts dancing, perhaps due to ergot or some other ailment. Others, witnessing the spectacle, might interpret it as a sign of divine displeasure or perhaps a contagious affliction. Fear takes hold, and the contagion isn't a virus but an idea, a shared delusion. The power of suggestion in a society lacking the scientific understanding of today is immense. This is not to diminish the suffering of the victims; their pain was real. But the shared belief, the collective anxiety, could have amplified the initial symptoms, transforming a few isolated cases into a full-blown, citywide epidemic of dancing. Could it be a combination of both? A perfect storm of ergot-contaminated grain and mass hysteria? Perhaps. The truth, sadly, remains elusive. We have pieces of the puzzle, tantalizing clues, but no complete picture. The dancing plague of 1518 stands as a dark, unforgettable reminder of the fragility of the human body and the power of collective belief, even in the face of death. It's a grim, bizarre, and utterly captivating chapter in the annals of history, a testament to the unpredictable and often terrifying nature of human experience. So we've journeyed through the bizarre, the terrifying, and the utterly baffling tale of the dancing plague of 1518. We've explored the ergot theory, the mass psychogenic illness hypothesis, and even considered the unsettling possibility of a collective medieval-era rave gone horribly wrong. But the truth remains elusive, a ghost dancing in the shadows of history. Did a single woman's inexplicable movements trigger a chain reaction of mass hysteria? Was it a fungal toxin, silently manipulating minds and bodies, or something else entirely? The mystery of the dancing plague isn't simply a historical curiosity. It's a chilling reminder of the fragility of the human mind, and the power of suggestion in a world lacking the medical understanding we possess today. The sheer scale of the event, the complete breakdown of societal order witnessed in Strasbourg, speaks volumes about the vulnerability of even seemingly stable communities in the face of an inexplicable phenomenon. What echoes remain? Well, beyond the whispers in historical records, the dancing plague continues to resonate in our understanding of mass psychogenic illness. Think about it. Contemporary examples, from the mysterious fainting epidemics in schools to the more recent TikTok challenges that have resulted in widespread injury, bear an unsettling resemblance to the frantic, uncontrolled movements of those dancers in Strasbourg. While the causes might differ, social media influencing teenagers versus perhaps a potent neurotoxin, the underlying principle remains the same: the contagious nature of behavior, the power of the collective mind to shape individual actions, and the terrifying possibility of losing control. The dancing plague also forces us to confront the limitations of medieval medicine. Their explanations, rooted in religious fervor and a lack of understanding of neurology and infectious diseases, highlight the stark contrast between their world and ours. Imagine the helplessness of the physicians witnessing this inexplicable affliction, resorting to prayers, pilgrimages, and musical interventions that ultimately proved futile. Their attempts at treatment music, prayer, and even the somewhat brutal practice of bleeding only underscore the desperate measures taken in the face of the unknown. But perhaps the most enduring echo of the dancing plague lies in the questions it leaves unanswered. It serves as a powerful testament to the unpredictable nature of human behavior, the susceptibility of large groups to collective delusion, and the enduring mystery of the human body and mind. It's a story that forces us to question our assumptions about rationality and control, reminding us that even in the modern age, we are not immune to the power of mass hysteria or the unpredictable forces that can overwhelm individual agency. The dancers of Strasbourg, long dead, continue to dance in our collective consciousness, a haunting reminder of the unknown lurking in the shadows of history, waiting to be unearthed. The dancing plague of 1518 remains an enigma, a dark stain on the tapestry of medieval history. It's a story that speaks not only to the medical uncertainties of the past, but also to the ongoing mysteries of the human condition. What truly caused this inexplicable outbreak? We may never know for certain. But one thing is clear: the unsettling legacy of the dancing plague continues to fascinate, horrify, and above all, challenge us to confront the unknown. So there you have it, the dancing plague of 1518, a story that defies easy explanation, a historical anomaly that continues to fascinate and unsettle centuries later. We've explored the horrifying spectacle of hundreds, perhaps thousands, convulsing in a relentless, fatal dance. We've delved into the medieval explanations. From demonic possession to the wrath of St. Vitus, we've examined the more plausible theories: ergot poisoning, mass psychogenic illness, even the socio-economic pressures of a rigidly stratified society pushing its populace to the brink of collective madness. But the truth? It remains elusive, a ghost dancing just beyond our grasp. Was it a perfect storm of factors, a confluence of fungal toxins, social unrest, and the contagious power of suggestion? Or was there something more sinister at play, something we simply cannot comprehend with our modern understanding of the mind and body? The lack of a definitive answer is perhaps the most chilling aspect of this tale. It reminds us of the fragility of the human condition, the vulnerability of our minds to unseen forces, and the terrifying potential for mass hysteria to consume even the most seemingly stable of societies. The echoes of those frantic, desperate dancers in Strasbourg still reverberate through history, a haunting reminder of the mysteries that lie buried beneath the surface of the past, a mystery that even today continues to inspire intense debate and speculation. What do you think caused the dancing plague? Was it a curse, a contagion, or something else entirely? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Grim Histories for more chilling tales from the dark corners of history. We'll see you next time for another Dance with Death.